Welcome to the FL Community Podcast, created for the community by the community, where we discuss living with follicular lymphoma with a particular focus on thriving beyond diagnosis both physically and mentally. The following podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. Please speak with your doctor before making any health decisions.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the FL Community Podcast with me, Dr. Paul, with Nikki and with Nicola, our producer. Nikki, what are we talking about this episode?
Yes, today we're talking about the side of follicular lymphoma that often gets overlooked, the emotional and mental health impact. From the shock of diagnosis to coping with treatment to living with ongoing uncertainty, these challenges are incredibly common. So our aim is to open up the conversation, relieve some of the stigma and share some tools and resources that can really help. So Paul, over to you.
Thank you. So yeah, as the resident psychotherapist, I think this is a particularly important episode in terms of my expertise and my experience working with people. I don't focus specifically on cancer and physical health conditions in my practice, but it does come up frequently. And I think that particularly FL, because it's very unique, I think, in the cancer world, FL in particular, in our experience, it brings with it its own set of unique challenges. And so I think today we really wanted to say, as you said, Nikki, to open up the conversation around mental health. Our doctors, our treatment plans, our symptoms are all geared around the physical manifestations of FL, which is super important, obviously. But because that is often the priority, the mental health stuff does get shoved to the back of the line a little bit. And so we wanted to just bring that out into the open, have some frank, honest conversations, share a bit of ourselves where possible, where appropriate, and yeah, just position that as a really vital topic within our arsenal of topics that we talk about here at the FL Community Podcast. And so just to kind of give a brief overview of what we're talking about today, we want to talk about the unique psychological impact or impacts of FL. And we want to talk about how cancer, and particularly FL, can intersect with existing mental health conditions, the ripple effect on relationships, which can be inevitable and quite difficult sometimes. The importance of therapy and emotional support, those coping strategies and self-care tools that are available to us, and recognizing when you might need a bit of extra help, as we all do from time to time. And then finally, about reducing stigma generally around mental health, but particularly around cancer and specifically around FL. So that's our starting point, really. If we go back to kind of the first point, so as I said before, we often focus on the scans, the blood tests we have to go, the 4-monthly or 5-monthly or whatever it is appointments. And the psychological and emotional impact, I think, can be just as significant, but is often overlooked. FL in particular, we've talked about this in previous episodes, but the uncertainty that comes with this diagnosis, particularly as many of us experience, there is not an initial rush to treatment if you're lucky to be on watch and wait. Watch and wait itself, as we talked about in episode 2, I think, can be a very welcome for many, but very confusing and very difficult period in terms of uncertainty and our mental health. Because FL is often slow growing and paradoxically incurable and treatable, which is one of the unique aspects, I think, of FL. We're left in this kind of no man's land of we should be grateful. We've got time to live our lives, but it's incurable. How do we manage that psychologically? It's really difficult, I think. And this chronic but unpredictable disease can really create a low-level anxiety and something we call scanxiety, which I think is probably a cancer buzzword in general, but I think we all feel it quite deeply, right? So I wonder, the two of you, what kind of comes to mind as I'm talking about this unique psychological impact of FL?
I've been living with this for almost 12 years now, but I do remember the initial anxiety. I mean, I'll never, ever forget that. the initial anxiety. I know during treatment, I think I didn't experience as much anxiety as I did when I finished treatment. And then the follow-up appointments after that, I knew when the week was coming up, when, I was going to see my hematologist, and then those butterflies start creeping up into your stomach, and this, which is the scanxiety. I mean, I haven't had as many scans, but the appointment itself brings on that anxiety, and even you still sort of don't know what to expect. You think, is this going to be the appointment where am I relapsing, or even if I haven't had any signs or anything like that, it's still that unpredictable feeling of cancer. It's there. We know it's there, and we've got to live with it. My appointments over the years went from 3 monthly to 6 monthly to annually. And even those annual visits, I was still getting the anxiety. But it's funny, I guess, because I've been living with this for so long, and I've, been so involved in it. I talk about it a lot. I think the anxiety has sort of eased, and even going in for my appointment in the last few months to confirm that I am relapsing. It was a different feeling for me, I think, because I knew that it was happening. There was still that anxiety of, am I going to be needing treatment straight away? But I felt a lot more in control compared to 10 years ago.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm saying is that it does get easier as we go, as the years go on, and even during relapse, it does get easier, but it is so real, and it is so scary. Yeah. So I think particularly after treatment, the anxiety, the depression was very raw for me. Yeah,
Right.
and that's when I was experiencing it the most.
We do see, don't we, in the Facebook group, people newly diagnosed just having joined the group, in a real state of panic sometimes, or fear. And, we all understand, we've been there, most of us, and the people commenting with such compassion and just trying to put it into context and saying, we get it, it does get easier. And you can almost hear the relief, I guess, of the poster when, all these reassuring comments come in. But it is so anxiety provoking. And I think you mentioned before, Nicola, this idea of the kind of normal versus the new normal, and going between those kind of stages in your life.
Yeah, definitely. And going through, I didn't have any symptoms. I'd gone into hospital with something else. So this was totally unexpected, really. So to get the actual diagnosis, I think at the start, going through all the tests and the scans and the biopsies, I think that was the part where my anxiety was through the roof. I've been living with this nearly 8 years now, and I think it's up and down. It's like not level to a point where I'm just getting on with life, and most days it is okay, it's manageable. And then if I haven't been looking after myself, I haven't been getting enough sleep, I find that's when it triggers again, and I start, or when my appointment's coming up, that's a big trigger for me. It's like you say, Nikki, it's what if this is the appointment where they say this is it? Or it has got better. It's not that initial, you both have gone through it, that initial fear of diagnosis and the unknown. So it does get better, but it is up and down if I don't keep a check on it.
Right. It's a chronic, being a chronic disease, it's a chronic, maybe anxiety as well for many of us.
Yeah. And I think it just needs that attention. I make sure I get out for walks, get in nature, and just look after myself, really. Sleep is one of my things that I do struggle with. I'm terrible for not getting to bed before midnight. And I think when that goes on a few days or weeks, that's when I start to feel the anxiety kicking in again. I just think, I need to start looking after myself a bit better.
Your body's telling you in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I think is quite unique about FL is that many of us can look quite well. I think we've said this before as well.
Yeah.
Like looking at the three of us now, I think we look well. Like, and Nikki, you've relapsed recently. I've just completed a chemo. You're on watch and wait, Nicola, sorry. And yet we're all living with an incurable cancer. And it can be really hard for people, I think, to know how to be around us, talk about this with us, and for us to know necessarily how to be with them too. And we'll come on to kind of the impact on relationships in a bit. But how do you both deal with that idea of the incurable cancer, but looking and seeming relatively well, that dichotomy, that paradox of FL?
It's hard when I have to tell someone that I have cancer. I hate telling new people because they immediately get that, I'm really sorry. And I don't want people to feel sorry for me at all. Like so I then instantly get, it's okay. Like, really, it's like, I don't want to say it's a good thing, but
I'm fine.
I mean, it's not a good thing, but I get really nervous about that, with telling people for the first time because, I don't know. It's like you said, it feels different to other cancers, like solid cancers, particularly like when we say we're stage 4, people instantly think the worst. But for this type of cancer, it's quite common for it to start that way. So, yeah, I often then feel like I need to explain a lot of things to them, and that then gets me anxious. And so I don't really like to sort of tell new people about it, but we do, and that's okay. Like, I don't mind talking about it, but I just don't want it makes me anxious, people feeling sorry for me, or I don't know if that's weird or not, but yeah.
No, I agree. I often find myself getting quite angry because I look like I'm fine, and mostly I am, apart from when I was going through treatment. But I might be on a plane, for example, and there might be someone next to me who's sick, and then I would have to like come out, as it were, to them or the stewardess and say, "Sorry, I've got a cancer and of the immune system, and I'm quite nervous about being sat next to this person. Is there any possible?" And I can see them look at me and be like, "You're making it up," and and I get angry, and because I put so much effort into feeling good, looking good, feeling healthy and fit. I feel like I'm almost taking away from, do you know what I mean? Like the idea of having the cancer and that, well, you look fine, so maybe you are fine. It's so complicated.
I've had people who have known that I've been diagnosed and then sort of seen me a couple of months or years later and say, "Oh, you're okay now." And
yes,
it's kind of like, and you don't want to say, "Well, no, I'm not okay," but it's a hard one to explain because people only know cancer as you get diagnosed, you have an op, you have treatment, and then whatever the outcome is. So I think it's hard for people to understand this cancer, just know how to act with someone, I suppose. And I think I don't get embarrassed, but I feel like I don't want to make it like you say, Nikki, you don't want people feeling sorry for you. And then I get a bit more stressed when I'm trying to explain it. And I just think, I just want to be quiet now and don't just stop the conversation. And like you say, you would walk by us in the street and not think anything, would you? You'd think there's 3 healthy people. So yeah.
So I think with that disconnection or the lack of congruence, I guess, between how we come across, because this is a chronic disease and we have to learn to live with it. It's hard for people sometimes to get in line with that thinking when we just tell them, even people that are in our lives all the time. But that can kind of disconnect us from our feelings sometimes, or heighten them, which can lead to quite isolated times, I think, for us sometimes, and frustration.
I think you get the people that, I've had it said to me, just stay positive, just don't think about it. And it's kind of like, God, I wish I'd thought of that. And and so you do try and be that positive person. You don't want to be the sort of downer of talking about cancer.
Yeah,
So it's hard to get in that sort of balance, isn't it, of the conversation, really.
indeed. As I said before, we all have our own mental health and emotional and psychological health struggles, some more than others. If you're lucky, you've not had any. You may have in your lifetime. And any chronic disease, but particularly cancer, and even more so, I think, FL, because again, of the chronicity of this disease, it can intersect and exacerbate or amplify existing mental health conditions in some people. We've talked about COVID in the past before, which certainly amplified my anxiety around certain things, as I think it did for many of us.
Yeah.
My diagnosis itself prior to COVID, I've always been quite an anxious person, and it never controlled my life, but I was quite controlling of my life to maintain or reduce my anxiety, right? And COVID and my diagnosis meant that I had to be even more in control to feel as safe as possible. So my anxiety was huge upon diagnosis, as many of us experience, because I place a lot of importance on fitness and ability to move my body and to have energy and be ambitious. There was a real risk of me sinking into a depression after my diagnosis and what it could mean for me longer term. This idea of deterioration was really difficult for me to swallow. And so I did start taking an antidepressant very soon after diagnosis, which was actually, it was an antidepressant, but it was for anxiety, this particular pill. And it did really help. And as a therapist, I'm not against medication. I think it can work synergistically with therapy in some people. It's a lifeline for some people. But ideally, for myself at least, I wanted to avoid having to take a pill like that. But it felt necessary for me in that moment. And I'm actually glad that I did, because it gave me the space, it kind of numbed me, which it can do, blunted my feelings, which maybe I needed. And then after a while, things were easier, and I tried to come off it. It was quite difficult, honestly, to come off it, which many people experience. But I did come off it, and I've not needed to go back on it since. So for me, it was quite a useful tool in the acute phase of diagnosis and the anxiety. But that anxiety, it exacerbated some obsessive traits that I have around cleanliness, around eating, exercise, which I've talked about a bit in the past before. And so I really had to notice where my standards were just high standards and where they were excessive standards, and how they might be actually detracting from my mental health. And, sometimes it took a therapist, my therapist, or people around me to kind of point that out. So I wonder, for both of you, were there kind of existing emotional or mental health difficulties that have been highlighted or amplified by your diagnoses?
I have OCD, and contamination OCD is the main one, which is like yourself, Paul, with sort of cleanliness and germs. And looking back, I think I've always had it underlie. It's been rumbling along, and I've sort of managed it. It was when my dad fell ill with a brain tumour, and we were at the hospital, and I noticed then that's when it started. I mean, it was a very stressful, upsetting time, so that was probably the main factor in it. But it did get to a point where I actually went on antidepressants to control the OCD, and I was myself sort of looking at depression, and the medication helped. It kind of got me out of that place I was in, but I did find I was just numb to anything. It just numbed everything. But they did help me get out of the place where I was then in a place to say, right, I want to come off these. I've not, I mean, my diagnosis, again, my OCD and the pandemic, it sort of was sky high. It was quite hard to control at times, but I did choose not to go on antidepressants again and just try different things that would sort of help me. And yeah, some days were bad and other days were good. And it's just since I've been sort of self-helping myself, the good days are more than the bad days. So yeah, it did really, my diagnosis did trigger my sort of OCD traits and depression to some, and anxiety, because it's tough, isn't it? It's really it's tough getting this diagnosis. And whilst you try and stay positive, it's knowing that it's that incurable title, isn't it? It's really, it's tough on you some days. And I think the way I've come to manage that is when I'm going down there, I think nobody knows what's around the corner. Nobody knows what's going to happen to them tomorrow. I've got this bit of information about my own health. I've got this incurable cancer, but there is hope. There's treatments. There's so much research now. And I just think for me, just having that sort of nobody knows what's around the corner has really helped me. And just having hope, just even on my bad days, I think just I've got hope for a long life. I've got hope that a cure's found in my lifeline, in my lifetime. And just like whatever twists and turns this cancer is going to take me on, I've just got to hope I'll be okay. And I think that's what keeps me going now. And just self-care as well, trying to get the sleep, trying to get out in nature.
I think you hit on something really important there, Nicola. Many things, but in particular, I was thinking, at what point does our response, our psychological response to the diagnosis, eclipse, for a while the diagnosis itself, if you see what I mean? So, for example, your OCD, at some point, hopefully your FL is watch and wait and indolent, slow growing for a long time to come. But then your OCD symptoms can be amplified and become the thing that's more threatening to your well-being, than the cancer.
Some days I just wouldn't leave the house because I couldn't cope with the thoughts I would get with OCD. Would I be safe? And it was just easier for me to just stay at home. And it's been a real struggle to break that and to go out. And I mean, I go on holiday now and I see my friends and my family, but for a good while, I missed out on so much.
Right.
And it's been tough, but I do things now where I can manage it, and I do get to live again and not just hide away in my house, which
You're
is
pushing at those boundaries that you've created, in your mind, which, are very powerful, but you're breaking through them.
Yeah. Wow. You should be so proud of yourself, how far you've come, Nicola. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, some days it doesn't feel like her, and I think, and then other days I'm like, no, I'm doing this. So yeah.
Good.
And that's the thing, you've just got to hope for more good days than bad days.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And they do come, the good days get more than the bad days. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. How about you, Nikki? What's your kind of experience around mental health, if you're willing to share?
Yeah, so I think when it was, as I mentioned before, the toughest time for me was finishing treatment with the knowledge of, at the time, I thought my prognosis was 10 years. So that, trying to wrap my head around that was very hard. And also the idea of when they said, if it comes back in within the next 2 years, your prognosis is worse than 10 years. So that, I think those two things really just filled my head every single day. And I found myself completely teary every day. I was on autopilot. My kids were really young. They were 1 and 4, I think, at the time, or 1 and 5. And I was on autopilot. I was just doing what I had to do as a mum, and then just crumbling any moment that I had when the kids weren't there. And it wasn't until I realised my daughter was recognizing how unhappy I was. She wrote a letter to Santa that year and said, my wish for Christmas is for Mum to be happy every day.
Oh.
And that's when I realized this is affecting her. She's noticing how upset I am all the time. I was just completely miserable. I didn't know what to do with my life. I was not focused. I was making mistakes, everywhere. And then it wasn't until I was seeing a psychologist as well at the same time. And I just said to my husband, I need to do something about this. And then he was just, okay, well, what do you feel is going to help you? And that's when I said, I need to find other people with this condition, because I didn't know anybody, and I felt so alone, even though I was surrounded by, I have a wonderful family, but they didn't know what I was going through. I met lots of I have other family members that have had cancer or that have got cancer.
Yeah.
But I just felt so different to them. I couldn't relate. Like you said, the word incurable, it's what triggers so much of the anxiety and the depression. So, what helped me was connecting with other FL patients. And it was an instant relief. And I never looked back. I still had the anxiety around my appointments, like I said before, but I felt much more in control. I could finally, somebody else felt the same as me. And it's an amazing how much of a relief it is to know that I'm not alone on this earth dealing with this all by myself. So that was what pulled me out of it. And I'm just so grateful to everybody in the community who are just there for me and everyone else. And actually, I do want to say, we mentioned, Paul, in the beginning that sometimes we'll have a post come up of someone feeling really anxious. I just want to say how immensely proud I am of every community member that comments on these posts and makes these people, these new community members who've just been diagnosed, feel so much better. I can just feel the love and the support, and I wish so hard that I had that, but I'm also so proud that we've been able to create this and provide this to newly diagnosed people, because it really was my goal. I didn't want anyone else to feel like that again. So I'm so proud of every community member that comments on these posts. It
is a beautiful thing to see, isn't it? Just like that hug that kind of rushes in when people are in this panic.
And then they tend to comment after and say thank you, and it's just like,
feel so much better, informed.
It's just,
you're not alone. No,
we're just one big happy family. Well, not happy all the time, but we're one big family.
We can be dysfunctional, but families are. That's the point.
But no, thank goodness you started the group, Nikki.
Thank goodness that everybody came and we have this beautiful community. So, I could not be prouder.
Just on, Nikki, you were talking about, your response to your diagnosis and recognizing through your children, which was really powerful, how you were struggling. Was there anything in your experiences then that was like an echo of previous times, or was it all new for you? Like, did you have any previous experiences of, mental health struggles?
Not me personally. I have a lot of family who have like depression, anxiety runs in my family.
Right.
I guess, I've been lucky enough not to have had any major trauma prior to my diagnosis. So
right.
I was the one that the family members would go to for support when they had depression or anxiety or any other type of mental illness. So I have experience helping other people, my family members, being there for them. And I love it. Like, I can't help myself. Even my husband gets annoyed because he's like, oh, do you have to? Yes, they're my family or they're my friends. I will do absolutely anything. I will drop everything to be there for them no matter what. But for I always sort of was seen as the strong one in the family that,
Right.
So, no, I really honestly hadn't dealt with any type of depression or anxiety myself personally until I was diagnosed. And then I started to really understand what they were going through. And
Yes.
it's tough. It's
Yeah.
really tough.
I think
Yeah.
you're really kind of represent an important section of the community, which, not everybody has mental health difficulties or, before this diagnosis. And because of my job, I tend to only see people that, are experiencing that. But, many people are lucky not to have had those experiences that are then amplified from the diagnosis. But as you say, Nikki, you then sadly get thrown into the deep end with anxiety, depression, other things, which is an awful thing for any of us to experience. But yeah, I think it's interesting how our previous experiences can impact and make things worse for some people. So again, it's so important that we do seek support, that we don't hide our symptoms of mental ill health, that we speak to our consultants, that we seek out extra support, which we'll come to in a bit. Because as we were saying, Nicola, our responses to it can often be worse in the moment than the actual cancer in that particular time. I wanted to move on to the idea of the ripple effect on relationships, which is kind of connected. And again, something that I think I notice a lot in the Facebook group. There are people telling their stories about just how heartbroken they are or how disappointed they are. And many positive stories as well, of course, but I'm particularly drawn to the ones where people's families are just not supportive in the way that they should be. Or like we were saying before, they don't understand this cancer enough. They think people are faking or they should be more sick or I don't know. I'm always bewildered when I see those posts where people have been have cut off contact from their loved ones with FL. So I think it's really important that we talk about the impact on relationships, particularly on, I think, partners, because that is often a very difficult area. If you're single and worried about, I know that I was when I was first diagnosed. I was single. I was thinking, who's going to want to be with me now after being landed with an incurable cancer? But I'm pleased to say that that wasn't the end of the story, and I'm now happily married. And I think that's an experience that many of us have. This doesn't compel you to a life alone. No cancer does. It might filter out the less desirables, maybe. But but it's also important to say that loved ones can really struggle with their own fears and uncertainty about one of their loved ones, and so their responses might not be as we might want, but it might not just be about them. Not about them being bad people, but just being human. And so I think there's a lot of work around misunderstandings that can happen. There's a lot of space, I think, for better communication or the attempt at better communication. Not trying to lean on all of your friends and family for the support when there might be other places you can go for it. I don't know what you both think about this particular topic on relationships.
As I mentioned before, I have family members who suffer with severe mental health conditions, and there were a few members of my family that we were very mindful about when I was diagnosed, that I didn't feel like I could tell, particularly because of how fragile that they were at the time. So that was hard because those were the people that I needed, one of them, my mum in particular. She suffers a lot of mental health, and she has over the years. And I've always sort of felt like I've needed to protect her a lot of the time. So that was hard because I didn't have my mum when I needed her. But I was very lucky to have my mother-in-law. She has been a rock for me. She also has cancer. She's got metastatic breast cancer. So we connected over that. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's different for everybody, isn't it? I know people whose relationships, like partner relationships, have really suffered over it. But I've found that it tends to go one way or the other.
Mm.
I know I'm very lucky to say that my husband and I, it really cemented our bond, really strengthened our relationship, and we were very lucky there. But there's so many people where their partners aren't there for the long haul.
Hmm.
And I guess I would say to those people, you need to find your people, the right
Yeah.
people for you. Don't
Yes.
waste time sticking. I mean, I wouldn't waste my time with someone who's not going to fully support me 100%. And you have proven it, Paul. They are out there. There is,
Yeah.
your people are there. You've just got to look for them.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I guess that's all I
It's
can
really
Mm.
say about
powerful.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's really important what you
Mm.
said,
Mm,
Nikki, about finding your people. Um,
mm,
that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, and as I said before, the idea of, it's a really sad way of thinking about it, but this being a bit of a filter for the people in your life that,
Hmm.
will
Yeah.
stick by you. And I think of my husband who's just taken it in his stride. I can't
Mm.
imagine him. I mean, he can have his doubts and he can struggle with it, of course, but there would be no question that he wouldn't be with me to wherever this goes.
Yeah.
You know, um, but then that brings another aspect up, I think, which is important of how we. One of the hardest things for me upon diagnosis and quite soon afterwards was how to help those that I'm telling that care about me,
mm,
Mm.
because that was the hardest part for me. Telling my sister, telling my mum,
yeah.
my close friends, like, and
Yeah.
less about the pity part of it, because I think they know that I wouldn't want that.
Mm.
But just their worry and how do you make them feel better when you're the one with the incurable cancer? That's something
Yeah.
that is quite powerful for me and quite difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's finding out how people act and respond, and then just respecting if they can't deal with it, if they find it difficult to talk to, then
Mm.
you just need to accept that, don't you? And know that the support isn't going to come from them, not from them being a bad person, but they just can't, they're not in that space where they
Hmm.
can deal with it. And it is hard to think like we're the ones with this incurable cancer, but it affects so many other people, doesn't it? I remember
Mm.
when I got diagnosed, me and Andy had just got engaged, and
Mm.
it was like, I remember saying to him, do you know what you're signing up for here? Are you still in?
Mm,
You're in or
Mm.
out? And
Mm.
it's really difficult.
mm,
And yeah, I mean, Andy, he comes to all my appointments. He's there. It's like we've mentioned before, it's finding the new normal, isn't it?
Mm.
mm,
We had all these dreams and we were going to do this and that, and then this diagnosis came crashing down on our world, and it's just finding that new normal, isn't it? And
Mm.
just knowing you've got someone there, and yeah.
Mm. Trying to protect them from it a bit, and the anxiety, and actually, apart from the first couple of appointments, I went to most of my chemos alone, and it's not because Carlos wasn't. I'm cancelling work. I'm coming. I was like,
Mm,
I'm okay. Yeah, let me
yeah,
go. It's down the road. I'll be back before tea.
yeah,
And that was quite hard for him, I think. But he
yeah.
saw that I was okay, and that as long as I knew I was coming back to him,
yeah.
it was something that I could do on my own. But he was there, and I think that's the most important part.
Mm,
But I feel I just don't want him to have the anxiety, and whatever happens in the future, I kind of it makes my heart break to think that he might be really worried about me, or that I may not survive it.
mm,
Mm,
That really
yeah,
gets to me when you find such an important relationship. I guess this is part of
yeah,
life, right? This
yeah,
is the
mm,
whole point of
yeah,
finding someone, being in love, of creating family. You have to acknowledge that part
mm,
of that love is the loss that is inevitable
mm,
eventually, which is
yeah,
probably a bit
absolutely.
dark, but
Yeah.
it's true.
no,
Mm.
It is.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I think also, another important aspect of telling people is telling our kids. I know when I was diagnosed, my kids were 1 and 5. I didn't, so there wasn't any point saying anything to them at that point. I was quite lucky. I went away for treatment. I was on a clinical trial and I was injected with radioactive iodine. So I was put under house arrest for a couple of weeks. I did have rituximab infusions throughout the year, but I could do that when they were at school and daycare and they didn't know any better. But I had to go away for those 2 weeks, and I told my daughter I was going away for work, and she was mad at me, the poor love.
Oh,
Yeah, and that was really hard. And I remember it being Mother's Day while I was away, and yeah, so that was hard. But I didn't actually tell them until I think my son must have been 4 and my daughter was about 8. And was trying to choose my moment very carefully because I didn't want their first experience of the word cancer to be scary for them.
Yeah.
Because they'd never heard the word cancer before. So I wanted to make sure the first time they heard that was out of my mouth, not from anybody else. So I waited until we were doing some fundraising it was for the Leukemia Foundation called Light the Night, where you walk around with the lanterns.
Oh, yeah.
So we did some fundraising and we brought the lanterns, and then I waited for them to ask. So they asked me, why are we here? What are the lanterns for? And why do you have a white lantern and everybody else in the family has got a blue lantern? And that's when I explained it to them. And I tried to make it not be scary. And it's funny, to this day, they're now 16 and 12. They still are not afraid of the word cancer. They're actually quite blasé about my cancer. But my closest friend has recently been diagnosed with a terminal cancer. And when I was telling them about that, they were, oh, she'll be okay. So I don't know if what I did was the right thing. That's just my story. I guess there's no right way or wrong way to tell kids about something, but I know it's a real thing that people worry. I mean, there's so many people in our community that are in their 30s and 40s who have got young kids. And there's been a few posts out there, what do we say to kids? I do know there's a really good video on YouTube. It might have been LLS that released it a few years ago. I'll share it to the community again. It's a really good sort of animated video for when you're telling kids. So I will share that again. And if anybody wants it, email us at the flcommunitypodcast@gmail.com and I'll forward it to you.
I can put it on the show notes as well. So
it's a really good resource for when you have kids. But I think it's a very sensitive sort of thing because the first question they ask is, are you going to die? It's the most common question that kids will ask when you're telling them these things. So and I know my daughter did say that to me. She said, are you going to die? And I just said, not anytime soon.
Right.
I mean, that's all I could say. I'm going to do my very best to be around, and I am. But I know they're not worried. As long as I'm okay, they're okay. So I think Nicola Mendelsohn said the same thing when she told her kids, as long as they take their cues from you, don't they? So
yeah. I mean, I don't have children, but I know my nephew was only 5. And I was fun Auntie Nick. I didn't want him knowing I didn't want him worrying or just, it was like, what would a 5-year-old think of cancer? Like, I just didn't want to put that on him. So I didn't want him to know. And it was a few years after, like when the pandemic hit, and it was like, he's going to be thinking, where's Auntie Nick gone? And that's when we had to say to him, and he was just like, when he found out I wasn't, like you, Nikki said, when he found out I wasn't going to die, he was like, okay. Like, and I have said to him, if you ever worry or want to talk to me, just don't think you can't talk to me. But it's I think kids are,
it's a big one.
they I think they take things in better than we think. I think we worry a lot about them, don't they? Don't we?
The capacity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this brings us on to the next topic, and that of how we can help ourselves. We've been touching on aspects of this, I think, throughout. But obviously, as a therapist, I'm going to push therapy. It's part of my job in a way, kind of, passing on the amazing potential and support that therapy can be. Now, it's difficult for several reasons. Mostly, I would say access in terms of financial or geographical access. Obviously, online therapy is very normal these days, particularly since COVID. But many people can't afford it, which I understand. There are lots of good charities out there, particular cancer ones, Macmillan as an example in the UK. Do ask your consultant and your hospital team about any therapies that are offered, whether they group, whether they're alternative therapies or talking therapy. Some people struggle beyond the practical aspects of accessing it with just the idea of opening up to a stranger. I mean, it's not natural for many people. I think the new generations are becoming more used to it. The youngsters that I'm working with, I sound like an old person now, the youngsters, but I'm in my 40s now. But the younger generations are so used to the idea of therapy, maybe too much. It's gone the other way, with the lingo they come out with. But generally, they're a very thoughtful, reflective, lovely bunch when it comes to, looking after themselves psychologically and mental health.
I think mental health is more open now, isn't it? 10, 15 years ago, you would never admit to having struggles. And because it's mainly invisible, isn't it? It's not. So I think
another one, invisible illness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
It is.
Indeed. It's a good point.
And a lot of people struggle without, and they feel sometimes embarrassed to open up and say they've got mental health struggles. And
yes. And the relief of people that come to see me or some of my colleagues who've never considered it, but something has brought them, like an illness, something else, is palpable sometimes. That they can actually just spend an hour a week or whatever it is, just talking about themselves and their difficulties and things they can't say to maybe in as much detail or as honestly to some of the people around them. And of course, that is very helpful too. But I think where therapy comes into its own is just that very unique space that is created between you and a professional who is there to focus on you for that time and help you. So it's not for everybody. I think it is for most people, quite honestly, and particularly at diagnosis and then throughout really the lifetime of this illness. You may return to therapy as and when you can, as I have throughout my life. Particularly post-diagnosis, I went back again. I mentioned before I'm in a group therapy now, which I think is incredibly helpful, particularly for cancer. If you can find a group specific to cancer or even the type of cancer that you have, FL, fantastic. It doesn't have to be though, because a group made up of people from different backgrounds and walks of life and experiences is also very useful for many people. So I would recommend individual and group therapy. Group therapy can be more cost effective. It tends to be cheaper because, you're sharing the time, as it were. And then beyond formal therapy, peer support groups, obviously the community here, the opportunities to get involved and, share spaces and campaigns and just social time with people going through the same thing. And also, it's important to mention, we talked about relationships before, that couples therapy or family therapy can be a real help for people really struggling with relationship dynamics, maybe brought on by the fear or the anxiety of cancer. So don't be afraid to seek that out, particularly if you've not thought about that as an option for you in the past. Most people that come to me who've been quite anxious to do it in the past or fearful, or they just don't believe it works, have been pleasantly surprised. I've mentioned I've been in therapy, a lot of years in different ways. I think we've talked about it in the past that both of you have experienced
Yeah.
therapy, and it's been very helpful for you both.
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky. My hematologist, he offered me therapy through Macmillan at the hospital. Yeah, it was, I felt very lucky to have had that, because I think we've spoke about this before with cancer diagnosis. They look after you physically, but not everyone has that mental care. And I think that's that's something that when you get diagnosed, you should also have access to some form of therapy.
Okay. It should be
Even the
mandatory.
Yeah, even
I
people
agree.
who are quite, yeah, I've got cancer, I'm just going to get on with it, and not kind of display any mental health problems. I think everyone should have that opportunity. I think
Mm.
that's really important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I very much agree.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah.
And on top of, as I say, the formal therapies and then the kind of groups and the peer support things that are available in different communities, there are other coping strategies and self-care tools that I think are really important too for mental health. I mean, maybe in a second, Nikki, you can talk about the nutritional kind of aspect of the link between mental health and nutrition and the gut microbiome,
Mm.
if that feels
Yeah.
useful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But there are particularly a few things that I particularly find very helpful. The first one not to do, ideally, is limit Dr. Google.
Mm.
We all do it.
Yeah.
Now it's Dr. ChatGPT, I think, unfortunately. And it can be great, but obviously it can be very unreliable or wrong, incorrect, inaccurate. And it can just feed anxiety. And, so listen
Mm.
to your consultant, maybe ask questions in the Facebook group from people who've been there,
Yeah.
as and when you can and you feel able to receive that. But do limit your Googling or your chat GPTing, too much, particularly when you're feeling anxious or depressed, for example.
Mm. Mm.
Another important one, I think, is having creative outlets. Some people are more creative or artistic, others less so, but I think we all have the capacity. And
Mm.
again, it can be a luxury or a privilege for some people to find the time, but whatever that might be, it could be cooking, it could be gardening, which I know is a good
Yeah.
your job, Nicola,
Mm.
Yeah.
design, and it could be obviously singing, the obvious things, performing.
You know what mine was?
Tell me.
So when I was going through treatment, I'd lost that much muscle that my hematologist said, you need to go to the gym and pump some weights, and try and build back some of that muscle. And I thought, oh, that's a bit boring for me. I'm more of a
Right.
dancer. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I started pole dancing
Yes.
Yes, you did.
because
I
that
love
was the
that.
type of dancing that involved me building muscle. And
Mhm.
it was honestly the best thing it helped me the most. And I met the most beautiful tribe of women, and I learned so much more about myself than just pole dancing. I
Yeah.
learned how to love my body. I
Mhm.
learned how to it really was huge what it did for my mental health. It really was, like, that and the community together was what brought
Mhm.
me back. But
Mm.
yeah, it was, like, as you say, creative outlet, like
Expressive. Yeah.
musicians, that's
Mm.
their creative outlet. For me,
Mm.
it's dancing, and I was able to do it in that way. So I highly recommend finding some kind of creative outlet so you can express yourself whichever way. And yeah, if you can couple it with exercise,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
just kill two birds with one stone, which is what I did, and I loved it. I ended up becoming an instructor. I'm the owner of the studio, is one of my bestest friends in the world now, and I still keep in touch with all the girls of the tribe, even though the studio's now closed and we don't do it anymore. I now do Pilates, but honestly, it's was one of the best things that I did, and I encourage everybody to do it. And I believe we've got a few pole dancers in the community as well. So
Oh,
Ah.
okay.
give us a yell out and let us know.
Oh, that's so
Mm.
powerful. Like,
It is.
Yeah.
And it's expression,
yeah.
isn't it? It's expressing
Mm.
yourself in the way that feels comfortable and suits your personality. I know that
Yeah.
before I was a therapist, I was in theatre,
Yeah.
musicals in the West End. And I kind of let that go for a while I became, a therapist and worked for many years. But after my diagnosis, I returned to the stage again and found a love for dancing again and singing and performing in general. Super important. And then I went on to do my doctorate, which involved a lot of personal writing, which then became very therapeutic as well for me. So journaling,
Yeah.
writing, songwriting, which I also love to do. I mean, all of these things. You don't have to have an innate talent for it. Just do it. No one cares. It's just for you or for your family or wherever you want to put it. And then moving on to sleep hygiene, which we can maybe cover in more detail in the future. But you talked about, Nicola, you struggle sometimes with sleep. We know that sleep is vital for our stress levels, for our body to repair, building muscle, our immunity. Nikki, you might have something to say on this as well. And it needs to be one of the pillars of our mental health, well, our general health, well-being strategy, mental health and sleep and nutrition and exercise. So exercise and movement too. We know that's evidence-based in terms of mental health as well as obviously physical health. And then finally, for me, I know everyone talks about or seems to talk about mindfulness and meditation, and it's become a bit of a glib kind of, well, you're depressed, go and meditate. And it can feel a little bit, as I say, glib or what's another word? I don't know, maybe a bit insulting. Like, oh, great. Like you said before, Nicola, oh, great. I'll just stop feeling shit then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Why didn't I think of that one?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like,
and it can feel a bit like that. But if I've done the main types of meditation, and I've trained in one of them, and it's really powerful if it's done with the right people, as you were saying, Nikki, sorry. So the two types are transcendental meditation, which is where you go to a particular place with a coach, and then they give you a mantra, and then you learn to do it kind of with people initially, and it's all breath based, obviously, and you can do that on your own eventually. That's very powerful. But then there's another type, which is more mindfulness, and in particular MBSR, which is the one that I trained in, is mindfulness-based stress reduction. Okay. And for me, this is the gold standard in mindfulness. There's a book called Full Catastrophe Living, which is kind of a bit of a Bible for me. It's kind of a scary title for a very brilliant, very thick book.
Yeah.
And you do it in groups for about, I think it's 8 weeks. Yeah, the course is 8 weeks. And again, you learn to do it on your own and take it away. But it's very body-based, very, very good for people with chronic illness and cancer, specifically. It was revolutionary for me. And I still use those techniques daily and sometimes with my clients, with my patients. So I understand people's response to mindfulness and meditation might be a bit, but if you go for the right type, MBSR in particular, or transcendental, for some people could be very useful. Have you had an experience with this stuff?
I have also done a meditation online course myself.
There we go.
And it honestly is one of the best. Honestly, it was life-changing. It keeps me so level-headed, and it's simply 10, 20 minutes a day, even 5 minutes a day, whatever you can handle. It's not, I've really struggled for years trying to do it on my own. I've get my YouTube meditation video and I would try, but I could never get
switch off. Yeah.
Really switch off. Yeah. Cause I would be like, am I meditating yet? Am I meditating yet?
Yeah.
So I did a course through Mind Valley, and that was really good for me. It was 20 minutes a day, and I did that for 8 weeks, and it really set me, it became muscle memory, I guess, for me in the end. And because I practiced so much, and that's it, you just practice makes perfect. And it's made a huge difference to my my mental health. And I think maybe that could be contributed to why I'm not as anxious as what I used to be. Yeah. Feel I have had, like I said, in the last 6 months, I've had a bit of a lot of stress put on me, and that I've been, and the meditation has been so useful for me to keep my head level, to say level headed, and I think it also helps with sleep as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the body
Yeah.
scan that you can do, which is one type of the meditations. You kind of go through visualizing each part of your body, relaxing, and you can be asleep within a few minutes of doing that if it's done right. And I say if it's done right, there is no wrong way to do meditation. Even if you're there thinking, "Am I meditating yet?" You are meditating. It's
Yeah.
we're trying to. Someone described it to me once as trying to stop a wayward puppy from running away. It's like
Yeah.
just direct it back gradually, gently, and it'll come back. And just rather than trying to drag it by the lead, and
Yeah.
gradually you'll sink into it.
And that was my problem. I was feeling guilty because I couldn't
Yeah.
quite get there, and
Mm.
I would get frustrated at myself because
Mhm.
I wasn't there, and then I'll just put it in a bubble and let it float away.
Yes.
The bubble
Yeah.
didn't work for me. It just kept
Mhm.
sucking back in. But
Mhm.
Yeah.
eventually I got there, just practicing and
Muscle memory,
practicing.
as you say.
Yeah,
Mm.
Mhm.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a wonderful lady I go to see for Reiki. I love her to bits. And
Mhm.
she kind of starts the session, like when I lie before she starts the Reiki, and I guess it is a form of mindfulness. She does the body scan and
Mm.
just think about how your feet are. And then she works her way up. And by the time she's got to my head, I'm normally away. And yeah, I love my Reiki sessions, and so I guess that's a form of meditation, isn't it?
Sure.
And
Mm.
breath work that
Mm.
helps massively with my anxiety. Breath work
Yes.
it just brings me back into the here and now, and
It's very natural, I think, for us to be breathing quite shallow and
yeah,
high up in our
hmm,
chest. And you just remember to bring it down to your belly. And
yeah,
I forget all the time and I remind myself. And just that checking in with yourself is mindfulness, right? That's the whole
yeah,
point.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Mm.
yeah,
grounding, that
Mm.
sort of
yeah,
mental image of like
mm,
roots coming
Mhm.
from like
yeah,
your feet or your base chakra, and
Mm.
just that image of just it going into the earth, to the center of the earth. It works. It really
Mm.
yeah,
does,
it
like,
does.
yeah, it grounds you. Yeah,
Visualization. Mm. Mm.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
all these things are super important, and then we've just proven, whether it's pole dancing or Reiki or therapy,
mm,
we find our different routes to seeking help, and different things work for different people. Um, don't be don't feel ashamed if one thing doesn't work for you. Therapy doesn't work for everybody. Reiki won't work for everybody. Some people
yeah,
will feel an idiot dancing, and another person will feel completely alive and amazing. Find the
mm,
thing that works for you
yeah. That's the thing, isn't it?
and take recommendations from people as
Mm,
well that are like
yeah.
you or that know you. Particularly important, I think, with therapists and other practitioners. Sorry, Nikki, I was going to ask you about the link between mental health and the
Yes.
microbiome. And do you have much to
Yes,
say on that?
absolutely. Always.
Sure. Well, I thought a whole new podcast episode, but
Definitely,
we can
yes.
preview it
So
here.
interesting.
Yes. Well, the gut microbiome is really like it produces a lot of our neurotransmitters, and it communicates directly with our brain through the vagus nerve, that super highway straight from our gut to
Mm,
our brain. So it's really important that we're making sure we're feeding our gut microbiome with all those beautiful prebiotic fibers, and like garlic, onions, legumes, all those to
Mm.
feed the garden and help it grow. And also, seeding it with those fermented foods is also good, like the yogurt, kefir, kombucha are all really good. But just some key vitamins or minerals to focus on in regards to helping build those neurotransmitters that our gut is producing is particularly our B vitamins, like
Mm.
B6, B12, folate, which is B9, magnesium, zinc is particularly good, and vitamin D, which is really strongly
mm,
associated with our immune system, and also
mm,
helping to nourish our gut lining, which is
Mm.
super important when we're managing our gut microbiome. But also what's really important to balance your hormones and your sugars are really important. So things like balancing your protein throughout the day is really good. Making sure that every meal has a really good sufficient amount of protein in it will help to balance those sugars and those hormones, and all work synergistically together to produce the right neurotransmitters and not sort of really go too hard on the cortisol or those stress hormones.
Yeah.
So they can all really help. So just those sort of things, and lots of anti-inflammatory foods and antioxidants and lots of colourful vegetables. They all play a part.
I was going to ask you which types of foods, but it sounds like colourful, fibrous foods, garlic. You mentioned onions, prebiotics.
Yeah. Feed that garden, and it's going to look after you.
It's like the Mediterranean diet, isn't it? It sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That is a very good one because it's got a lot of the good fats, which are quite anti-inflammatory, and a lot of antioxidants, and it's probably one of the best diets and most studied diets. So absolutely stick with the Mediterranean. If you just want to focus on a particular diet, I would highly recommend that one.
Yeah, that's relatively easy for me to do being on the Mediterranean, but sometimes I don't manage it. But a lot of olive oil, a lot of tomato, lots of garlic, onion, all those good things, beans. So thank you, Nick. Yeah, that's going to be, I think, definitely another whole episode in terms of that gut mental health connection, which is more and more studied. Yeah. Just to cover the final few points. So recognizing when you need help is often quite hard. It might take other people to point it out to you sometimes, loved ones, family members. You might find that you're, burnt out at work, that you're struggling with your kids, for example, or you're maybe more irritable, or just really struggling in ways that you maybe hadn't before. And you may just be saying, maybe I'm just tired, or, but if it keeps happening, maybe there's something more that you can do in terms of looking after your mental health. Obviously, if you start to feel real serious depression or anxiety that is completely destabilizing or stops you functioning, if you get panic attacks that interfere with your daily life, and some people can have really serious aspects of, maybe delusions or psychosis even. It happens, and you need to get the support that you deserve. So reach out to your GP, if not your consultant. They will have links and connections to other departments that they can refer you to, most likely. Don't be shy in coming forward, I think, when it comes to your mental health and the needs that you have, because as we've talked about today, if the cancer might be okay, you might be in watch and wait, you might be in remission, but if your mental health stuff is not getting the support that it deserves, you may be creating that level of stress that's obviously not very productive for the body and the cancer in general. And then just generally really reducing stigma around mental health and cancer. I think it's important that we're talking about it today. Challenging that idea of just being strong or getting over it, or the very British, just pull yourself up by the bootstraps and stop complaining, which is not helpful. It's good to be positive, of course, but we don't want any toxic positivity, to use a bit of a buzz phrase, which in my mind is just ignoring any negativity and just pushing through with the positive regardless. It can be quite unhealthy and quite dangerous, I think, sometimes. And, emphasizing that seeking help is not a sign of weakness. Particularly, I think it's important for men who, particularly if you've got cancer, you're like, I'm being attacked from all sides. I'm not going to go and seek help for my mental health as well. Like, don't do that to yourself. Do seek out a therapist or a buddy or a sport or whatever it is that you need. And just encourage open conversations with families in workplaces and in any friendship groups, support groups that you have. You're not always going to get the responses that you deserve or that you want, sadly. But there will be places and spaces for you to get the support elsewhere. So do reach out. Yeah, just a summary really, that FL affects both the mind and the body. And I think it's really important we open up this conversation around mental health, which can be neglected, that reaching out early can make a huge difference. And just to know that you're not alone with this, as we've all kind of acknowledged today, I think.
Yeah. And I just want to point out this information is also directed at our carers as well. They need
100%.
the support just as much as we do. So
They do.
Yes.
that goes for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you, Nikki. So, Nicola, do we have any questions or any comments or anything from the community?
We do. We've had quite a few comments come in, and we invite you all to comment on either the post or the YouTube channel once you've watched the podcast. There's one here from Kelly. Thank you for sharing your stories and being so open about how you cope. After all, we're only human. This journey can be lonely and stressful, but watching this podcast and following the Facebook group helps us to all understand and to know that someone actually gets it.
Wow.
And is going through the same or similar. Can't wait to see more. That's a really positive.
That's lovely.
That's
Thank you,
lovely.
Kelly.
Yeah.
That really speaks to what we've
thank you,
been
Kelly.
talking about today, doesn't it?
It does.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then there's one come through on our group podcast post from an Alison, and she said, just had a listen. It was great, guys, and even inspired me from my sick bed. She's had shingles and now has COVID, and she spent far too long in a bed this month, bless her. Yeah, it's encouraged her to stop looking at my rebounder next to my bed, and I'm just about to go on it for about 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
She's been in bed since Saturday, so it was just the motivation she needed.
That's lovely.
Yeah, and she's saying great nutritional information here as well. We are lucky to have this community, and I hope people get a lot out of these podcasts. So yeah, that's a good...
We love to hear from our listeners in the community. We know we're not just speaking into a void.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to know it's inspiring people out there.
Do please keep your emails coming into the FL community podcast at gmail.com, or as Nicola said, you can comment on the Facebook group where we post it, or
YouTube.
On YouTube as well. That's right. Yeah. I think, Nikki, you had a bit of information you wanted to share before we finish.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment just to recognise Robert Miller and the incredible work that he has done through lymphoma survival at www.lymphomasurvival.com. So if you haven't already heard, Robert is a long-term follicular lymphoma survivor himself. And he has built one of the most comprehensive, trustworthy and patient-focused resources available for people like us living with follicular lymphoma. So his website provides an evidence-based information, practical guidance, and a wealth of insights drawn from years of personal experience and deep research. He has had FL since the 80s, so he has done a whole lot of research. And I'm also proud to say that he is a member of our community. So he does read our posts. He doesn't comment very often, but he does read them. So the website he has does require a small annual membership fee, but I can honestly say, and I think you guys would agree with me, that it is one of the best investments you can make in your own knowledge and empowerment as a patient and even a caregiver. So the clarity, reliability and hope that he offers through his work has made an absolutely enormous difference to our community. So I just want to say thank you to Robert. And I'm also really proud to announce that he's agreed to come onto our podcast early next year as a guest. So I'm very excited to be able to bring him on and talk about all the exciting plans that he has for his site. So I highly encourage you, if you haven't heard of it already, head over to www.lymphomasurvival.com and check out his website. He also sends a monthly newsletter, which I would like to start talking about on the podcast. Maybe we could have a segment that talks about Robert's monthly newsletter. So
new science.
If you do want that, if you, as a community, if you want to see that, let us know. Comment that you would like to see us talk about Robert Miller's site and his newsletters that he brings out once a month, because I think they are absolutely invaluable. So
I would echo that, Nikki. I signed up when I was first diagnosed, and then I didn't really use it because I was a bit in denial and didn't want to, But then, so I cancelled it, and then I found I missed it, and then when I started to think about treatment, I signed up again, and it was so invaluable. I followed so much of the advice, and I've said before, I credit the success of my chemo regimen with following a lot of the advice on there. And there's a wealth of information in terms of topic indexes and just posts and newsletters going back so many years. That's easy to find. It's just really helpful. There is a fee, as you said, but it's so small for what you get.
I think it's only like $20 US a year or something like that.
Yeah.
And once you get in there, you can just see the enormous amount of work that Robert and Robert and Judith put into it, and it is just so invaluable, the information, and it really increases your knowledge. And he breaks it all down into different articles. He's got a 4-pillar program, which makes it easy to sort of understand, and he focuses on those lifestyle things, what we should be doing even during treatment. It was his website that gave you the idea to run home after your chemotherapy and jump into the hot bath, which you might remember from episode 3 we were talking about. So it's great. It gives you that empowerment, the knowledge, and he's done all of the research for you.
And it's all evidence-based and with all the kind of citations. I mean, it's really impressive. Anyway, we've sold it.
He links to all the research articles that he talks about. It's very, very invaluable.
So more of Robert, hopefully, in the future, by the sounds of it.
Yes.
Yeah, we look forward to getting him on.
I can't wait to talk to him about so many things.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we've reached the end of our session number 5.
Yes, number 5.
We've done 5. We've done 5 already. We're thundering through them. Our next episode, if I'm not mistaken, is another special guest patient story with a really inspiring young woman called Charlotte, who many of the community will know. And we're really looking forward to speaking with her. So tune in next episode as well, which should be dropping mid-October, 15th of October, I think.
15th, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
But until then, let's finish with our lovely motto.
Yes.
All right, here we go. And remember, here at the FL Community Podcast, our motto is...
From surviving to thriving.
One story at a time. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.